Who is a God like you, pardoning iniquity and passing over transgression for the remnant of his inheritance? He does not retain his anger forever, because he delights in steadfast love. He will again have compassion on us. He will tread our iniquities underfoot. You will cast all our sins into the depths of the sea. You will show faithfulness to Jacob and steadfast love to Abraham, as you have sworn to our fathers from the days of old. This is the word of the Lord. Please be seated. Good morning.
Good morning.
How's everyone doing today? Alright, we'll turn this up. It's not loud enough, but can you believe it's already December?
No.
It is December 1st, but it's what happened to this year? It's basically gone. Test 1, 2. You got it? All right, you got it. You got it. Yeah, the year's gone by pretty fast. It's almost Christmas. Everything that's come. It's now, it's now Christmas music season. Not that one. Yeah, it's number 4. It's Christmas music season, which some people that's like their favorite time. Some of us, it isn't. To put it simply, I think they get repetitive, but that's just me. If I were here last Christmas, I gave you my heart again, I'm going to explode. That's not a Christmas song. It just mentions Christmas in it. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit. David's not here, as we said, so you got me. Lucky you. As you see, everyone turned out in droves to hear these minister preach. A full house. But today I want to just take a moment and talk about God. Which I know, it sounds crazy. What are you going to preach about? God. Yeah, I know. It was a couple of weeks ago, I think it was, Lori told me this about, Chad was sick from our Wednesday night Bible study, and she said, what are y'all talking about? The Bible? Really? No way! In the Bible study, we talked about the Bible. And that's usually my answer. Everyone asks me, what are you going to preach on? Jesus. And then I get a look of, okay, what about Jesus? So, yeah, I know. We're talking about God, but we don't want to talk about God today. I want to talk about something that goes with it. That's something we don't talk about very much anymore. But something that's all throughout the Bible. It's everywhere. And that's idols. And worshiping something else. Worshiping other gods. Because today, I can safely say that I am an idolater. I worship things other than God. Am I proud of that? No. Is it something I'm trying to work on? Yes. But do I worship things other than God? Do I worship false things? Yes. We all do. I'm going to take that as an amen. But that's what we all do. Now, we don't necessarily all sit around and sing psalms to all different things. Though in our high school class today, we was talking a little bit about, especially, does Illinois have, like there's the national anthem for the country, does Illinois have like a state anthem? They do? What is it? Judy Island knows it. That's good. See, in Texas, we are taught from a very young age the state anthem. They even call it the Texas national anthem. That's how proud we are of this song. And this song, and so, you know, people, you meet someone from Texas, and normally you think, yeah, they are idolaters of the great state of Texas. They worship Texas. They won't stop talking about how wonderful it is. There's no state income tax.
how it's warm, how there's good Mexican food. Where we make Dr. Pepper. You're welcome. They talk about over and over, it's a song, and I was talking about it today, but some of the people ask, well, what is in the song? The Texas national anthem. It is really, the national anthem, the U.S. national anthem is like a poem about this battle that happened in the War of 1812, and this battle between the British and the Americans, and how the flag still stood. Texas national anthem is like, Texas, our Texas, how wonderful and so great. Those are the words to the song. You're the boldest, the grandest. You stand through every test. Empire grand and glorious. You stand supremely blessed. I'm not joking. Those are the words. And it's just, that's every day in school we had to say the pledge to the U.S. flag and the pledge to the Texas flag. We doubled up. Because we believed that Texas was the greatest state in the Union. But we were taught to sing to it and taught to pledge allegiance to it. And it was very interesting. I don't think any of those things are bad. But when we think of worship, that's not the stuff we think. We think of coming together like this and sitting down and singing and pledging allegiance and something like that. And truth is, when it comes to worship, that's not always what it's about. Worship isn't just what we do here. Even though what we do here, I hope, genuinely is worship of God. Worship is everything we do. It's where we devote our time and our energy. It's where we devote ourselves. It's what we put first in our lives. It's what we prioritize as the number one, absolute, most important thing. The thing that we order everything else around. And we do worship. We do worship other gods, lowercase g. There are people, and I know, not here, but people I know who they plan their entire lives around football games. They don't play, but watch it. They plan all their family gatherings, their schedules, their work meetings around what games are on, when they're on, going to the games. And ironically, I think sports fans do sometimes go in big matches and sing songs around the field. And it is kind of funny. But they do organize everything around the game. I know people, I'm a nerd, I know it's a shock. But I like wellness. But I know people who they organize their life around movie releases. It's about what movie's coming out when, and when they're going to go see it on opening night, and then they'll see it 15 more times the next week, and talking about it, and reading about it, and everything is organized around that. And these are kind of ridiculous. I think most of us can look at, when the next Star Wars movie is coming out, which is this month. Not that anyone cares. But planning, your whole life around that. We kind of look at it as ridiculous, but we do this with so many things that we worship, that we put in before. It's the thing we want to achieve the most. For some people, I was reading this, it was an article, it was a while ago, but there's generally three things people want. There are three types of things. People want security. They want to be safe. Now that could mean financial security, or physical security, or emotional security, depending on the person. But they'll do anything, and they organize their entire lives around having enough money to make sure that if something happens, you're good. Everything in life revolves around it. Or they're making sure that them or their family is physically safe. Which nowadays is both harder because the world seems more dangerous, and easier because you can now track someone through their phone and their car and everything else. And when want to keep everyone safe, and that's everything, and making sure their house security system is okay, that they have, self-defense weapons and everything else ready to go. And they have a plan, and they have a plan in case of a fire, a plan in case of a flood, a plan in case of an earthquake, even though they don't live anywhere near earthquakes. Plans in case, you name it. And everything revolves around safety. The second thing is some people desperately crave and seek acceptance. They want to be liked. They want people to love them. And so they'll plan their whole life around parties and events and gatherings to try and get people to like them. And that's the drive in life, that's the thing they seek. And others, the third thing is legacy. They spend their life trying to leave something that will last beyond their death. Maybe a book, maybe art, children, something. Now here's the thing, all three things, safety, people liking you, legacy, these are all good things. These are not bad. It's good to be safe. Amen? All right, less than I was hoping for, but all right. Some people just love to live dangerously. But generally speaking, we want to be safe. We have a safety ministry here. Why? Obviously, it's important to be safe, and that's true. It's good to be financially safe. I can tell you right now, the elders love it when the budget's in the black. Makes everything easier. The ministers love it more, because it means we're safe for another year. But it's not a bad thing. You talk about people liking you, forming connections. There's nothing wrong with being liked and having people respect you, and you care for them and they care for you. That's good. And legacy, to build something that lasts, that can benefit people and people can learn from years after you're gone, that's not bad. That's a good thing. But with all things, if anything takes the place of God, it becomes a bad thing. It becomes an idol. It becomes something we worship. You hear the word idol, and I think you think of two things. Either American Idol. All right, that wasn't funny. I'm sorry. But when you think of like a wooden or a metal stone statue that people bow down to, we think of that old thing. In the stories of the Old Testament, that's very much a lot of what it was. Or even the New Testament, in the book of Acts. They're building statues of Artemis out of silver, and there's a whole riot about it. We think idols, the stuff, the little things, the statues. And that can be. But idols are anything we put in front of God. We put ahead of Him. And here's the thing. The ancient people, the Old Testament people, New Testament people, all these old races and nations and cultures, they were smart. They knew to give these idols names because they recognized them as real. I mean, just think of the Greek mythology. They had Aphrodite, the goddess of love. I say a lot of things weird. It's okay. But I say it that way. It's what it was about. It was about romantic love and pursuing that with all else. That's what she was all about. And that's what her followers were all about. And how many people in our world today worship Aphrodite? They would never call it that. They wouldn't say it. And that way, it's actually kind of harder to diagnose. It's actually harder than people say because we're not calling it by the name of what it is. It's worshiping romance and relationships and all that kind of stuff. Think of, well, there's a lot of them. There is a lot of them. Think of Ares, the god of war. Now, generally speaking, I know most of us don't worship war, but he was also about power and dominance. And how many people we know in our lives who do anything and strive for any cost to be the guy on top or the girl on top at work or in the family? And that's what they're striving for. And that is what they do. They want to conquer and dominate whatever place they're in. Maybe it's at their business. They're willing to cheat and lie or work, whatever, do whatever they can to make sure they're the next vice president of the company. And it don't matter who stands in their way. This last Friday was Black Friday, where there is on the internet an actual counter of how many people die during shopping at Black Friday. Because people die, because people want the deal. They want to go shop, they want the stuff, and people in stores get trampled to death and killed over TVs and toasters and coupons and deals. And the day after we declare what we're thankful for, we apparently kill each other for what we don't have. That's the God of convenience and material wealth and possessions. It's a God we worship. And I think it's very important to recognize that we do worship other gods. Gods we make for ourselves. And we devote ourselves to them. We live our lives in service to them. Whatever they may be, there's a whole, there's thousands. But none of them, and I repeat, none of them, are worth serving. None of them are worth serving. And that's very important to remember. As we talk about these gods, and we come to what I believe is the one true God, and that is, well, we usually call him God. Big G. And in Exodus chapter 34, we learn something about it. And what's very interesting about this, so Sam read from Micah chapter 7, and in there is a sort of a repetition of this very important theme throughout, especially the Old Testament, about who God is. And it's first said here in Exodus 34, but it comes up all the time. But in Exodus 34, you know what's just happened? The golden calf. The people of Israel who have been enslaved in Egypt for 400 years have been set free by God and by his mercy and grace and power. And he's sent them forth. He's led them to Mount Sinai. He's part of the Red Sea. They've walked on dry land. He's given them food. He's provided for them. And he's even spoken to them. He's spoken to them. They come to the mountain and he comes down. And there's a thunder and earthquakes and smoke and lightning. And he tells them the Ten Commandments out loud to the whole people. They've heard him talk at this point. And they freak out, as I think most of us would. They hear God talking from a mountain. And we go, well, hey, Moses, you do that. We'll stay here and not do that. And then that was exactly what they were trying to do. They didn't want to hear it. So Moses goes up and he's receiving the rest of the commands. And after hearing God talk, seeing the Red Sea part, the 10 plagues, being fed and sustained by God in the wilderness, they have the bright idea, cows. And they think cows are worth worshiping. And so they build one. they build a golden calf. They take all their jewelry, all the stuff they have, they melt it down, and they make a golden cow. And they worship it. Now we laugh at it, and Rick's chuckling, we also go, crazy people. Except for that's us. All the time. How many times in our lives do we see that God has been active, that God has done something in our life? He's changed us, something's happened. And usually, oftentimes I will say it's in hindsight. We look back and we see it. We see that God has helped us with something, that He's motivated us through something, or whatever it is. And then we immediately turn and start worshiping something else. A lot. Probably. And so with the Israelites, they go and they worship the cow. Moses comes down, throws the commandments of God at it, melts it down, mixes it with water, makes them drink it. I'm assuming that does not taste good. But then he renews the covenant. Moses intercedes on their behalf. And they're here to renew the covenant. And this is where God speaks. In Exodus chapter 34, starting in verse 6. The Lord passed before him and proclaimed, the Lord, a God merciful and gracious, slow to anger, and abounding in steadfast love and faithfulness, keeping steadfast love for thousands of generations, forgiving iniquity and transgression and sin, but who will by no means clear the guilty, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children and the children's children to the third and fourth generation. This statement that God makes right here is repeated in different ways throughout the Old Testament. Every time there's an appeal to who God is, that's what's said. It's said in the book of Jonah. When God confronts Jonah, and Jonah goes, why are you so angry that I saved Nineveh? Jonah quotes this, the reason I ran away, because I knew you would be slow to anger and abounding in forgiveness and love. Because you just love to forgive people. That's my translation of the book of Jonah, because that's pretty much what it is. It's in the book of Micah that was just read. That he's slow to anger and abounding in forgiveness and love. It's over and over and over. Now we read this, and the part we love to get hung up on is, and he will visit the iniquity of the father to the children and to the children's children. And we go, well, that's just not fair. I don't know why I went with my Texas accent for that, but it's not. That's what we go to. It's not fair. You know what's also not fair? What he said before. Showing steadfast love to the 1000th generation. That's really not fair. That if Rick is faithful and loving and a good God follower, he is, because that's why I picked on him. He's great. I love him. Yeah, me too. That's good. That 1,000 of his generations, God will be faithful to. That's not fair. Think about it. God has never been fair. Because we don't get what we deserve. If we was fair, by what the Bible teaches, all of us are destined for a rather grisly end. If he's being fair. But he's not. He's forgiving. He is abounding in steadfast love and faithfulness. And here's the thing. It's a contrast. That the guilty will suffer for 3 generations. But God repays faithfulness and love and holiness to the 1000th. It's not balanced. Because God isn't trying to be balanced. God is being God and is showing his love and mercy and compassion. He is slow to anger. and abounding, overflowing in love and faithfulness. This is who God is. And so we all have a choice. And this is a choice that is offered to the Israelites. They've just worshipped the golden calf. They're about to set off into the wilderness to go to the promised land. He's offering them the choice. And it'll be offered again and again. Joshua will offer it at the beginning of the book of Joshua. To either serve the gods of your fathers from beyond the river, serve the gods you brought with you from Egypt, which is always interesting that they still have them. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. It is always a choice. I think we often talk about losing faith. You never lose faith. You put it somewhere else. You move faith. Because we're always trusting in something. We're always dependent on something. We always believe in something. The question is whether or not it's God or if it's something else. It moves. It shifts. It never vanishes. The Israelites, they eventually got it. They eventually realized that not worshiping God is to worship something. And I don't know what, but something else. And everything we can worship in our lives, be it security or likability or legacy or our family or Dr. Pepper or whatever it may be, stories, whatever it is, it's not like the true God. It's not comparable to the true God. It's only the true God is slow to anger and overflowing in steadfast love and faithfulness. And only the true God is capable of rewarding the faithful and punishing the guilty. Only our God is truly capable of justice. Only our God is truly capable of grace, is capable of mercy. Because when we serve all these other gods, it just becomes a cycle of sacrifice after sacrifice after sacrifice. For what? Not much. Our God sacrificed His only Son for us and gives Himself to us. There is no God like Him. So, it's December. It's Christmas time almost. And I know this is the cheesiest thing you could say about Christmas time, but Jesus is the reason for the season. Yeah, and we've all heard it. It's kind of corny at this point because it gets said so much, but it's important to remember that it's true. That we look at Christmas trees, and hopefully they remind us of Jesus and what He's done. We see little manger scenes that remind us of Jesus and what He's done, and the sacrifice God has made on our behalf. There is no God like Him. So if you need anything at all, we invite you to come today as we stand and as we sing.